Now let's study animal tissue in detail. Surprisingly, the complex and complicated bodies of all animals are made up of only 4 types of tissues based on the type of function they perform: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. Epithelial tissue is the covering or protective tissue which covers most organs and cavities in the body. If you look at yourself in the mirror, most of what you will see is the epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue forms the outermost layer of the skin and it protects the body. So obviously everything that has to pass through this barrier has to cross at least one layer of epithelium. Since epithelial tissue takes care of such a huge responsibility, it has to make sure that it is capable of doing so. To ensure this, epithelial cells are closely packed with no intercellular spaces. Epithelial cells are placed above a non-cellular basement membrane which contains a protein matrix called collagen. Types of epithelium can be named depending on the shape and number of layers of cells. On the basis of shape, they can be squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. Squamous epithelium is made up of thin, flat, irregularly shaped cells which fit together like tiles on a floor or pavement, so it is also called pavement epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium is composed of cube-like cells, and cube obviously has equal length, width and height. Columnar epithelium are made up of tall and cylindrical cells. On the basis of number of layers of cells, when any of these epithelial tissues are arranged in a single layer, epithelial tissue becomes simple, and if they are arranged in many layers, epithelial tissue becomes stratified. So if you try to make combinations of these, you will get all types of epithelial tissues. Simple squamous epithelium is called so because squamous cells are arranged in a single layer, and stratified squamous epithelium is called so because squamous cells are arranged in many layers. Same is the case of cuboidal epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium is present at locations where movement of substances can be done easily. Can you guess why? Well, that's because the membrane should be very thin so that substances can pass through easily. For example, lining of blood vessels or lung alveoli. Stratified squamous epithelium is present where thick covering is needed. For example, skin, oral cavity or food pipe. Cuboidal epithelium provides mechanical support and help in absorption or secretion. These are present in kidney tubules, salivary glands, sweat glands, etc. Columnar epithelium provides mechanical support and help in absorption and secretion. These are present in stomach and intestine. Pseudostratified epithelium, as the name suggests, is a type of epithelium that has only a single layer of cells, but they appear to be arranged in many. In other words, they give a false appearance, therefore named pseudostratified. It helps in absorption and filtration. Cuboidal and columnar epithelium can modify themselves to ciliated epithelium, where cells have hair-like projections called cilia. Cilia basically helps to move substances. Ciliated cuboidal epithelium is found in sperm ducts, and ciliated columnar epithelium is found in the lungs and respiratory tract. Epithelial cells can also modify themselves or specialize themselves as glands. A portion of epithelial tissue folds inwards to form a multicellular gland, which then secretes sweat, oil, hormones. Next type of animal tissue is the connective tissue, which you can guess by the name that it connects various organs by packing them around so that organs don't move around too much. So the main function of the connective tissue are binding, supporting, and packing different organs of the body. Cells of connective tissue are living, loosely packed and embedded in a gel-like intercellular matrix. The function of each type of connective tissue depends on the nature of the matrix. Various types of connective tissues are blood, bone, ligament, tendon, areolar and adipose tissue. Cells of blood tissue move in a fluid or liquid matrix called plasma. Blood plasma helps in transportation of oxygen, nutrients, and removing waste from various cells. Plasma contains proteins and blood cells such as red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells have an iron-containing respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, which is responsible for transporting oxygen in the body, and presence of hemoglobin gives blood its red color. White blood cells are the soldiers of the body and protects our body from infections, pathogens, or allergic reactions. Platelets help in blood clotting. Bones form the skeleton framework that supports the body. Bones are non-flexible. Bone cells are embedded in a hard matrix rich in calcium and phosphorus, which is also why we should eat a calcium-rich diet to keep our bones strong. But how are bones connected to each other? We need another connective tissue called ligaments to do so. Ligaments have very little matrix but are very elastic with considerable amount of strength. But have you ever thought of how muscles are connected to bones? Yes, we again need another connective tissue for that, which is called tendon. Tendons are fibrous with less elasticity. The next type of connective tissue is cartilage. Cartilage is a soft tissue attached to bones. It protects bones and helps them move. Cartilage gives shape to some parts of our body like nose and ear pinna. If you try to twist your nose or ear pinna, you will notice that it is soft and flexible unlike bones. Cells of cartilage are loosely packed in a solid matrix and cartilage is composed of proteins and sugars. Cartilage and bones are very different from each other. Areolar tissue is a soft tissue present below the skin and surrounds the muscles and blood vessels. Areolar tissue is a binding tissue that binds various tissues inside an organ and helps in repair of tissues after injury. Another connective soft tissue present below the skin is the adipose tissue. Cells of adipose tissues are called adipocytes and these store fat. This stored fat acts as an insulator for body. Third type of animal tissue is the muscular tissue. Muscular tissues are the tissues of the muscle which cause movement in the body. The muscle cells are large and elongated, so they are called muscle fibers. Muscle cells contain special proteins called contractile proteins which contract and relax to cause movement. Muscles do not increase in size but can contract to half or a third of their original size and can come back to their original form after relaxation. On the basis of location, structure, and function, there are three types of muscular tissue. First are skeletal muscles, and by its name you can guess that these are attached to the bones or skeleton. We sure can move our arms or legs when we want them to, or in other words, we can move them voluntarily, which is why skeletal tissues are also called voluntary muscles. When these muscles are seen under the microscope, they show alternative light and dark band striations, so we can also call them striated muscles. Cells of skeletal muscle are long, cylindrical, unbranched, and have many nuclei. Now there are several other movements in our body that we simply cannot control, like in alimentary canal or in blood vessels. So these involuntary movements are controlled by smooth muscles. These involuntary muscles are found in the walls of hollow visceral organs or the soft internal organs of the body. So these muscles are also called visceral muscles. Under the microscope, these muscles show no striations, so we can also call them unstriated muscles. The cells of smooth muscles are long with pointed ends or spindle shape and have a single nucleus. Cardiac muscles are present in the heart only. These show characteristics of both smooth and skeletal muscles. Cardiac muscles are striated but involuntary. Cells are cylindrical, branched, and have one nucleus. So the cells of all these muscles have distinguishable differences. The last type of animal tissue is the nervous tissue, which is composed of brain and spinal cord. The cells of nervous tissue are called neurons or nerve cells or nerve fibers, which have a specialized structure. The nerve cell is made up of cell body, axon, and axon terminal. The cell body has branched processes called dendrites. Neurons are like the cables of the nervous system that transmit stimulus like sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch as electrochemical impulses. Dendrites receive this signal, which travels through the axon to the axon terminal. From here, this impulse is transferred to another neuron through a small space between both of these neurons called synapse. Just like this, impulses travel from sensory organ to the brain and from the brain to different parts of the body. A nerve cell can be 1 meter long, and different nerve cells are connected to each other by connective tissue to form one nerve. What happens when you touch something very hot? This impulse travels to your brain and the brain coordinates with the muscles. As a result, you remove your hand. All of this can happen in a single second, and this is how fast neurons work. This combination of nerve and muscle tissue is fundamental to most animals, and it helps in movement and locomotion. With this, we complete animal tissue.